Yes. Yes, yes. It's all about science. 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 What is science, right? Genetics and science. Everybody's saying, oh, it's science, all about science. Yeah, it's science. Science is relative to the perspective and intention, and the outcome is predestined. So, we've been living in a world where our perspective, and science is perspective, and everything's perspective, to where we are using other people to replicate new humans. We're not just regenerating cells at the micro level on a continuous basis within the human body and living indefinitely. We are building nations. Oh, we were building nations. I think now the tables have turned, the script has been flipped. We are now reverting back to, okay, why they promote abortion, why they promote wars and different ways to shorten your life. Well, because we have figured out, well, we already have the infrastructure in place. We've exploited and capitalized on all the different strengths and weaknesses of 7 billion people. We have studied humanity from its infancy all the way to its maturity level until they die, and figured out all the different behaviors, how a person would react or not react. You know, the 1960s was huge in the charismatic movement with the Christians as well as other spiritual gurus. The 1960s and 1970s is huge in using different drugs to create a hormonal manifestation, which will then elicit a very specific reaction and action. How easy it is to manipulate a population. How easy it is to program humans. How do you crossbreed animals, different species, to create designer animals, designer humans? And then using in vitro, creating, again, like I said, designer babies, designer animals, to where how can we create the most perfect human? Yesterday I was chatting back and forth with John Oakes, and he was talking about Manly P. Hall's books that were focusing on the ancient esoteric knowledge of Sir William Bacon and William Shakespeare, and how they might be like very similar in their genetics. Um, I hadn't gone too deep into Manly P. Hall's and haven't studied too much of Shakespeare or Sir William Bacon's, but I know that William Shakespeare is a playwright, and there's definitely a very specific programming within William Shakespeare that universities use today. So, so we were discussing at what point did humans become on this earth? Because can you see I mean, we come from, yes, a single cell, and this cell then split into two, and split and split and split. But why did it split? Because it is now forming into some kind of purpose. Okay. Because I'm like, my dog Sugar, she's a pit bull. She didn't just pop out of the ocean. She evolved, but what did she evolve from? Or was she taken, was it different genes, DNAs, from different animals, with the dog as the blueprint, and then crossbred, and then replicated on a continuous basis. Just reproduce, and then now you have Staffordshire pit bull. Now you have, red-nosed pit bull, blue-nosed pit bull. I mean, yeah, there's reason. I mean, any animal you see right now didn't just pop out of the ocean. They evolved, but what was the grand design? Who was the grand design to create the purpose to where you have specific proteins that will stop replication at a certain point? That's why your arm isn't like 50 feet long. If your arm is 50 feet long, then something something was turned on and it was never turned off. But that would then create an imbalance. You have a specific proportion to your ears, your eyes, your arms, your legs, and there's a very specific grand design. And so I have no idea who put humans on Earth, but there was something that created the intelligence to be able to put birds and animals and insects and humans who are able to adapt and are a reflection of the microbiome. Because yes, what is a human made up of? It's made up of viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. Okay? Which means that you have so much life within you, so when you use an antibiotic, that right there in a general sense tells you it's anti-life. Antibiotic, anti-life, antibody is all against life. It is creating a limitation on growth or stopping growth or eradicating growth altogether. It's relative to your intention. Science has a specific intention. And the bioengineers, the biogenetics, all have figured out how to create a stable type of human or a stable type of organism, a stable type of cell to be able to split, and it has the blueprint already embedded within that cell, and then it's just a matter of giving that cell an environment to be able to mature. That's all humans are, as well as animals. Okay? And then when you want to stop the maturing process, or when you want to stop the growth process or the regeneration or the adaptation, you then create an environment of where then things deteriorate. Things deteriorate. Things regress. And so right now, all of science at this point, with the intention to use two different people to create a human, all of your future is predestined if you don't understand how to asexually reproduce at the micro level to where you don't have heterozygous. Your offspring, which is basically the new cells in your body, are not heterozygous. They're homozygous, because guess what? You're the one that's replicating your own cells. You are reproducing at the micro level. No, you're not creating a separate cell of a body of a human. And that's the reason why reproduction, when it takes two humans, a heterozygous human, is because you didn't have what it took to be able to reproduce, replicate, regenerate cells at the micro level. And that's why that's why your reproductive organs exist as an insurance policy. It's not there just because that's what's supposed to happen. That's what you were told, and that's what you were led to believe, because that's where science has come from. Science comes from the perspective that your life is predestined. You're going to live it out for maybe 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. They're going to give you a few choices, and then relative to your choices will be based upon how long or how short your life is going to be. That's the world that we live in. Science is relative to perspective and intention, and the outcome is predestined. Asexual. So it's interesting, I remember like homozygous and heterozygous, and I knew like what are these? Why is there a homozygous, heterozygous? And I'm thinking, is that like a homosexuality? I'm like, but hold on a second. But homosexuality is when you have two men or two women. Okay, fine. But that's still a construct. Man and woman is still a construct. That's all political. So I want to get away from the politics and just look at the word homozygous and heterozygous. Homozygous is where you have two identical alleles. That's your own cells replicating. based upon the blueprint of your body. That's homozygous. That's independent of somebody else. Homozygous is independent from somebody else replicating and procreating. Heterozygous is where you need somebody else to create life and to keep life going until there's that predestined deterioration process. Because if you can be a homozygous and you can replicate on your own, you would never need somebody else to help you out because you can do it on your own. That's independence. That's freedom, in my opinion. Our society has been built upon marriage, family, relying on somebody else to get you through because you don't have what it takes to do it on your own, so you always need to depend upon someone. Different levels of dependency. Yes, when you live in a community where you want to live relatively comfortable, you're going to have to rely on government and infrastructure to give you that foundation so you can move around in society freely without too much, unencumbered, without too much worrying about whether or not the water is going to be fresh or relatively okay. You can go and get your vegetables, you get your food, you can go drive your car and go experience different things because you're in a vehicle, because you can't go and just teleport. Maybe one day we can, but I don't know. Maybe we already can. I don't know. Ask Gene Roddenberry. Okay, so you're going to have some kind of level of dependency in our society. But now with this whole COVID is now flipping the script. Now it's saying, you know what? Now we're going to give you the choice. Can you do it on your own? And right now you're seeing people having a very hard time doing it on their own. You're seeing kids that are not very happy because they cannot depend upon someone else to entertain them. You see even people like adults that can't handle being at home, being on their own, doing it on their own because they want to go out and go to the bars and they want to go and congregate with people and hang out and be all social. Well, society's changing. They don't need to have so many people dependent on each other procreating in a way where it causes imbalances. And so now this is like a test. Like I've been tested the last couple weeks. I was tested and I'm telling you, I had a test where I thought I lost my wallet. And I only had my 3 little bank cards and my ID. That was it. I don't carry cash. I don't carry anything in my little wallet's like this small. And I thought I lost my wallet, but I didn't freak out. All I did was just stop the credit card, stop the bank cards, and got a new, driver's license and whatever. And so I didn't freak out because it's really, I think a year ago or so, I would probably freak out. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Freak out. No. But it's just like, okay, whatever. So I've been tested. And then these new revelations come up. And then I find my wallet. It was in actually my pants pocket. I thought I checked it, but I guess I didn't check it very well enough. But I already got all my new cards now, and I already have my driver's license. So I'm like, what the hell? But you guys are being tested right now. Can you do it can you rely on yourself to entertain yourself? Can you teach your kids to rely on themselves and entertain themselves? That's what's going on. And so it seems like right now this COVID is like this whole totalitarian whatever. I'm telling you, this is almost like a gift. Some of you will not survive this gift because you're so programmed to rely on someone else to entertain you, to give you that strength to carry through. Why can't you give your own strength to carry through? Why? Because you're at a deficit. You're dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness. The inability to adapt to the changing conditions of the environment. And so yes, this whole COVID and all of how government is dealing with it, you're having a major hard time. And really what they're doing is really not actually that bad. Because it is about science. You know, when a virus is communicable and some people will not have what it takes to handle the new environment, a person who is very communicable, very strong, like someone like me, and let's say I'm going through an upgrade. Those of you that are doing the JJs, you'll be releasing the excess. You'll be going through an upgrade. Yes, you're going to be communicable. That's just going to be a given. And who knows what kind of different viral proteins you'll be releasing through those antibodies through your mucus, but someone else will pick it up and you hope that they can handle it, but you have no idea. There's no way for you to know if another person can handle your microbiome. And so, yes, they're going to promote the masks. Yes, they're going to promote social distancing. They're going to promote, staying at home. Okay, it's science. But if you're not wholly independent within your own body, mind, and spirit, when they're taking away your freedom to go and socially interact and usurp energy from other people, you're going to freak the fuck out. And I'm telling you, it's happening. Most of you, not all of you, are freaking out. And I'm telling you, that's why you got to stay on the J juice, because it's going to help you be able to manage on your own without somebody else supporting you as far as just spiritually, which is basically biochemically. You'll produce it on you'll be regenerating cells on your own. You'll be going through your own evolution. You will not need to go and hang out and socially interact with people on a daily basis. You'll be able to do it on your own. That right there is peace. That right there is independence. That right there is freedom. When you're not dependent upon somebody else to get you through. But there's different levels of independence relative to what kind of lifestyle you want to live. Now, I'm not going to go live in the off-grid and pitch a tent and reinvent the wheel. No, I like my society. My neighbors are pretty cool. I like the fact that, we have different agencies in place for those that need a little bit of help. That way I'm not responsible for somebody else. I can give when I want and not give when I don't want. I have access to a grocery store if I don't want to grow my own vegetables. I mean, I like the society I live in. I don't see anything wrong with that. There is nothing horrible about the system or the infrastructure already put in place. It's the people that our system has a problem with. It's the imbalanced people who cannot seem to figure out on their own because they never were taught that. Now you're going to be thrown, nowadays it's sink or swim. You're going to be thrown into the ocean, and do you have what it takes to be able to swim to safety, or are you going to drown with the rest of people who cannot seem to handle being on their own, regenerating on their own, with their own homozygous genetics? So asexual reproduction comes from a homozygous genetics, which means you can replicate your own cells at the micro level. When you lack the necessary components to regenerate cells at the micro level within your own body, mind, and spirit, then reproductive genetics comes into play. And that's when you get heterozygous genetics to help you replicate by using somebody else's energy, because you cannot produce the energy on your own. And that's exactly why those of you who are having a hard time and you're pissing on everybody and everything, that is taking away your ability to go and take somebody's energy. But there's a balance. And that's why they're saying, okay, meet one or two people. But do you really need to be around 50, 100,000 people right now at this point? I mean, there's definitely a lot of psychological operations going on. I'm not saying what they're doing is benevolent, because they've created your dependency. Now they're taking it away, and you're like, what the hell? But how do you implement change management in a population that is just that can't handle new information, can't handle change? I'm telling you, even me introducing my information to people out there are no different than somebody being introduced to the new environment of COVID and the social distancing and wearing a mask. I see actually a very distinct correlation between the two. When someone can't handle my new information and someone cannot handle the social distancing, wearing a mask, and staying at home and, not being around a bunch of people, it's the lack of adaptation. And it happens in infinite fractals, and that should be an indicator to you to what level of imbalance you have. And when you're railing against the government, when you're railing against the system, maybe you should rail against yourself, your lack of adaptability. No, they're not putting you in a freaking, cell that's devoid of light and white, devoid of light and devoid of food. No, they're just saying, hey, dude, just chill the hell out. Stay at home. Watch some Netflix. Do Jilly Juice. Make your meals. Hang out with your kids. Teach them that they don't have to depend upon all their little friends to entertain them 24 freaking 7. Then they get in trouble and do stupid things like drugs and have indiscriminate sex and then have to pay child support because they haven't figured out their own reproductive system. So they're reacting to their hormones. What's wrong with that? Oh, no, but wait, hold on a second. You don't want to change. We are a reflection of our environment. And adaptation is key to longevity and to mitigate against extinction. And that happens at the micro level, as above, so below, and that happens at the macro level. You have a choice to replicate at the macro level or the micro level. It's far more peaceful at some point replicating at the micro level, but you were never introduced or given that option until today with the J juice. I'm telling you, I have not had my period since August 15th. I projected that and predicted that this was going to happen to me at some point, but I didn't know when. And it could have been like 10 years from now when the environment calmed down. I didn't know when my body was going to be able to adapt to where it wouldn't need to drop insurance policies. But I knew it would happen at some point because I knew every single time you get a period, you're freaking sick. You're evolving. But is the environment that aggressive for a person to not be able to adapt to it in a peaceful way? And that's where I had to figure out, with the amount of viruses in the environment, would that still trigger reproduction within me? So that was something that I was still looking at. But now I'm realizing that, oh my God, this last bout of symptoms I had, which seemed like it was menopause, but the only things that I felt was the hot flashes, which I felt before a couple years ago. But I had the hot flashes, I had the itching. I don't have the itching. I have a little bit here and there, but not so much. I had the itching in my lymph nodes, like in my arms here, in the back of my legs, and both ends, in between, in my inner thighs, in the back of my neck. I had a lot of itching, but the itching is subsided for the most part, and so has the hot flashes. And now I'm just sleeping like a baby, hardly dreaming, if at all. So you may have to go through a storm to be accountable for why it is you kept reproducing at the macro level. However, once you get over that hump of replicating at the micro level, replicating at the micro level is far more peaceful than replicating at the macro level. But once you get over the hump, then replicating at the micro level is far more peaceful than replicating at the macro level. And then death would never be on the horizon unless your environment became too extreme, or you were a victim of a freak accident completely out of your control. But you would never really know cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or anxiety, or anger. You would be a peaceful, law-abiding human being not trying to resist. I'm telling you, if someone tries to kill you in your home right in front of you, yeah, you resist. But if you're saying, hey, it's not we're going to just shut down this, we're going to shut down that, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, maybe you shouldn't go to a bar or restaurant at this point. Okay, they're not stopping you from cooking at home. Maybe learn how to cook a good dish. Maybe learn how to cook. These are all opportunities that are being squandered because you don't want to change. And that's lack of adaptation, and that should be an indicator that, yeah, you're not able to adapt to the new script. So, in order for you to understand all this, you must understand chemistry and biochemistry to be able to even consider this information. If not, then you will be a victim of someone else's intentions. And that's really, with all your reactions to whatever's going on, You are a victim of somebody else's intentions. Because guess what? You're reacting. You can't handle the change. You're not being put in a freaking jail as far as no, with bars and no windows and, and no light. No, you're able to drive to the grocery store. Yeah, maybe you might have to go through checkpoints. Maybe you might have to get a vaccine. But remember, nothing is toxic on a body that's able to counter and balance the environment. You realize a vaccine is probably no different than somebody or a group of people. So a vaccine would probably be correlative to going into a stadium of people with a new virus that you've never been exposed to. You're going to have to adapt to the new environment. And yeah, some people, when they've been exposed to a new virus, they will have a major adaptation. I know someone that was exposed to a new virus and they thought they had a heart attack, they thought they had something, but they didn't. It was the body really upgrading, and they were fine. They went and tried to get diagnosed, but there was no heart attack enzymes. It was just really acid reflux. That was really it. That was the symptom, was acid reflux. But the person thought they had a heart attack, but they went and they're not doing the Jilly, so just FYI. But they went to the doctor, and the doctor was looking for the cardiac enzymes and couldn't find anything. Why? Because they didn't have a heart attack. They were just upgrading to the new environment. So yeah, you get a vaccine or you go into a group of people, same difference. You're going to have to adapt to the new conditions. But you have to have the body be able to handle that new environment. And if you're not doing J-juice, yeah, you're going to roll the dice. It will be Russian roulette. It's going to be Russian roulette for all of you guys if you're not doing J-juice. Because no matter what, you're going to feel symptoms. Whether you're on the J-juice or not, you're going to feel symptoms because it's evolution. And the reason why people die and have a predestination of death is because of how they react to symptoms. They compound it with more antibiotics, anti-life protocols, whatever it is, either anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, all of those antibiotics will work against them. And guess what? That's the disintegration process. That's the aging process. And then eventually the vital organs will then shut down because you're not regenerating at the micro level. And then some people will be amorous and want to go and try to procreate at that time. And then at some point when the body realizes that this person, is not going to be around for a while, or they have a major issue with the reproductive system, they can't procreate. They are very sterile, not because they're so well and 100% well, because their body has some major imbalances that they couldn't hold life within them. When you study from the perspective that humans must procreate at the macro level, you will study the genetics relative to that perspective. So that's why no one has really understood my information, because they've all been studying from the perspective that you need two people in order to have a baby. You look what I said on Dr. Field, right there, case in point. That's the world that I came from, and that's the world that I put out there, and that's the world that they were using as a weapon against me because they've politicized reproduction. But now we realize that a homozygous person can replicate and reproduce at the micro level, but it's within their own body. It's not taking somebody else. Now they could if they were, finding someone with an egg or sperm. But an actual homozygous person is so independent. And that's really the root of it all, is that you are not dependent upon somebody else. Now, we've politicized people and sexuality. But when it comes down to technical science, a homozygous gene is able to replicate using its own alleles, and they're both the same. It's not taking from somebody else. And so the offspring, which is a new cell, is going to have the same alleles. It's going to have the same genetics. There'll be no difference because it's from you. You are replicating. A person reproducing, regenerating cells on their own at the micro level, when they are evolving and adapting to their environment, will always have the same identical genetics being passed down to the new cells when they split within the body. Keep with the blueprint of the body, the grand design of the human body. That is freedom. That is independence. That's the root word of homo. Single. Hetero to homo, single. But we live in a society that glorifies mommy and me groups, the crunchy mama groups, all the, the love, 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 and the bonding, and the kid things, and all the kid outings, and everything kid, 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 and it's all about the children. And it's not about the children, it's all about the children. I mean, you are being rammed procreation between two people on every facet of your life that you can't help but buy into the programming. So no wonder my information's be like, what the hell is she? Who? I'm telling you, when I put down asexuality and my dog, I talk about my dog and how amazing she is, and whatever, and when you put down your dog, you're destroying your dog. You're part of the death. I mean, I trigger the fudge out of so many people, but I'm okay with that because that means that I have hit now another evolutionary level. When you're reacting to something that you have never been introduced to, now you're faced with a choice. Do you stay with your current programming or do you take on new information? And that's called evolution. And you can either buy into it or you can disintegrate and stay with your current programming. You're being given a choice. All of you are being given a choice. Anyone that knows who Jilly Juice is and has been exposed to my information, it's not coincidental. You were meant to be exposed to my information. And now you're being faced with a choice. And so you'll see on my business page, people are choosing which side. They want to take on new information or they want to devolve. They want to evolve or devolve. And that's really the two choices people have at this point. Because you already know what's going to happen. Right now, your death is predestined for those who are not doing Jilly Juice. That's already a given. We already know this. That's not fucking rocket science. Oh, you're killing people. Hello, look what's going on with you right now. Look at where you're going. Look at your trajectory. You're already on your way out the door and you're saying, I'm killing people? Look at your belief system. Oh, I think I should die. And I'm killing people? Oh, but wait, you're supposed to die. Then what's the problem then? But I'm not killing anybody. But I mean, what's the issue then? If you already expect to die, then, and I'm not dead and I'm doing Jilly Juice and my dog isn't dead and she's been doing Jilly Juice. So what's the issue here? Oh, because it's conflicting with your current programming. You were told to be afraid of salt. You were told to be afraid of sugar. And salt and sugar are the building blocks of your body. Salt takes off what sugar puts on. When you are underweight, it's because you are not taking enough sugar and keeping it, and so you don't have enough fatty acids to then be able to heal you. Those acids are what makes up the human. Fatty acids come from sugar. Different fats, different acids. What is it? Biochemistry is fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. That's your biochemistry. You start saying, okay, I'm going to be sugar-free and discriminate. Guess what? You're going to have cancer, disease, chronic illness, imbalances all over the place. And then you wonder why. Oh, well, you don't wonder why. You expect to die, so whatever. It won't matter what you do, whether you take away sugar, put away sugar, whatever. Or eat sugar. It won't matter. But it's all about balance. You need a certain amount of sugar. You need a certain amount of salt. You need a certain amount of water. What that is relative to how your body is able to intelligently do what it needs to do because you've given it the right chemistry. But most people out there have not given their body the right chemistry, so they're being put together like a tin man, oiled here and tweaked here and stuffed there like a scarecrow. I mean, the Wizard of Oz is very, very telling. The archetypes of our society and then what they do to people who can't seem to do it on their own. They are being patched together with instruments. They're being robotified. When you think about it, they got implants in their body and they're putting, they're doing all these different things to their body and they're getting procedures done and they're getting tweaked and nipped and tucked and here and there and then down the road they're like, wow, holy crap. And then they want to go and have a kid. Okay. Who may or may not live out their life the way you lived out your life because the world is changing. So this is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyways, I'm gonna go do my thing, but you guys do J juice. You guys do J juice. All right. Bye bye.